Welcome to the WDW Reflections Podcast. Here, we'd love to talk about the Walt Disney World Resort, the way we remember it, how it's changed, and why we still enjoy visiting the most magical place on Earth. So come with us on a podcast journey as we reflect on the WDW Reflections Podcast. Hey y'all, welcome to the WDW Reflections Podcast, your unofficial guide through Disney World and all things Disney, memories, and their connections to the parks that we know and love today. And this is episode number 49 of the WDW Reflections Podcast. We thank y'all for being here with us. With me today are my podcast travel buddies, Ron and Tony. Ron coming to us from his home in Cleveland, Tennessee. How's it going, Ron?
Things couldn't be better. Things are going really well, and looking forward to the show and just having some fun reminiscing. That's what we always do here, isn't it?
And coming to us from the Big Apple, my good buddy Tony G. What's up, Tony?
Hey, Dewey. It's good to catch up with you guys today, and hopefully we'll have an exciting show for everybody who's out there listening.
All right, so now I always say at the end, after we do the little introductions here, I always say, are y'all ready to reflect on this week's WDW Reflections Podcast? But this time today, we're going to reflect even further back than we normally do, because this week we're going to do something a little bit different. Today marks the second anniversary of our podcast, so we wanted to do something special to celebrate. On previous episodes, we've mentioned that the three of us, and I'm going to put in quotations, met, because for a long time it wasn't actually meeting, it was just online. But the three of us met about 20 years ago on some Disney discussion boards. And for you kids listening, you have no idea what I'm talking about. What's a discussion board? Well, we're going to talk about that. So we thought it would be fun to get together with one of the gang from back in those days, back in the Disney discussion board days, before social media, before live streaming, before podcasts. There were discussion boards. And that's where the cool kids like us went to talk about all things Disney. So we're going to welcome to the show our friend Anne. And Anne, I think you're here with us. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great. How are you guys doing?
We are great.
Yes, we're all great. We're all great.
Friends.
We're excited. All right. So
we're actually bowing to the Queen here because
Gosh.
it's because of you that we're all together.
Absolutely.
Because, that's true. We wouldn't have this podcast because we wouldn't have met without Mouse House Magic.
That's true. This podcast would not exist if the three of us had not met. So, well, I guess that's silly to say, but that makes sense, right? So, yeah. So, I believe, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that most of the core group, all met on a discussion board called Disney Central. That's correct, right, guys?
That's right.
Yes, I believe so.
So do we need to talk about what a discussion board was? Tony, you want to give us some of the techno jargon? What was a discussion board?
Well, it was sort of like what you'd see today with Facebook, but it was more of a place on the internet where you could go sign in and find something that you related to, or a topic or a subject matter that you really liked, and find other people who you could also discuss this with, who probably knew more than you did or probably knew less, and we'd go back and forth and talk about different topics. And one of those boards was related to Disney, and somehow we all the four of us gravitated to it and started chatting amongst ourselves there. And when I say chatting, it was mostly, someone would write a sentence about something, someone would answer back. Discussion boards still exist, but that was the only way that we could contact each other back then, other than, if we knew each other's numbers and called on a phone. But this was more of a place where we can post our ideas, our thoughts, our questions, and have someone reply back.
So I know that I was a member of, it wasn't just a Disney phenomenon, right? I was in like I'm a child of the 80s, so I know I used to go to a couple of Star Wars discussion boards. I was even in a couple of discussion.
Seriously?
Yes, I know that surprises you. I was in. I used to go to a discussion board about '80s metal music. So there discussion boards was. You could find a discussion board about anything that you wanted to talk about, but we just happened to be interested in mostly Disney World and planning Disney trips and stuff like that. So Anne, is that how you recollect it? What were you doing over at Disney Central, I guess in the early 2000s?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, well, I stumbled upon it, trying to find information about the old, do y'all remember the old quick meal vouchers?
At
Yeah.
Disney World?
Am I a lot older than y'all? Um,
Well, my
but
father-in-law works there, so I don't use the vouchers very often, so
okay,
I'm not real
okay.
familiar with them.
Well, so the Disney vouchers were, what's a good way to describe them? It's before the Disney dining plans existed. There were no reservations to make in advance or anything like that. But there were these vouchers, and they were called quick meal vouchers. And I wanted to find some and went out and just kind of, did I Google it? No, you guys, I didn't Google it. What was it back then?
You probably asked Jeeved it.
That's probably it. Yeah, I mean,
or Yahoo
or Dogpile, or I
Yahoo,
mean,
right? Yeah.
there were so many different search engines out there. But anyway, and it took me to Disney Central, and I innocently asked a question, and man, I got some great answers, and people just seemed super friendly. And so, yeah, so I went ahead and joined and I started participating. And, you know, you would type something, just like Tony said, you would type something out and then you'd hit your refresh button and see if anybody had answered you yet, because that was the way that you communicated with people. Anyway, I got so involved that the administrator there asked me if I would moderate. And so I started doing that. And I mean, we had a great group. I mean, it was the only other way that we all kind of talked to each other was instant messenger at night on AOL. And then it'd be like, okay, tonight we're going to meet on instant messenger if you can join us. And, at one point, I think we had 25 people and they're just chit chatting. But,
You remember what we were talking about in those days?
oh my
Just
gosh.
life, right? Life in general. And
Life.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it was so strange because you sit there and you think now, how in the world did we open ourselves up to
exactly.
strangers on the other side of the country?
Hmm.
And I will never forget, we had a meet and greet for Disney Central. And I remember my husband looking at me and going, we're going to meet who? And you met them where? And is this safe? And should we be talking to these people? And yeah, and that's where I met Tigger Lover. That was her name. I can't remember, Cheryl. And you know what? It was great. It was great. So
When you
yeah,
said that,
so
you just reminded me that a lot of us knew each other mostly by our screen names more than our real names, even in
exactly.
those days.
Yeah, exactly. I think Dewey was Disney Hog 6, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, okay, let me remember. You were G-Man, right,
That's right.
Tony?
Yes, yes.
Ron, you were, man, let me remember. Oh man, I'm embarrassed. I can't remember that one.
Oh, you're fine.
Pretty easy.
It's
Oh,
easy. There's
Look
was it
behind
a
just
him.
Ron?
big clue in the back of me.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Anyway, so yes, I mean
Yeah.
that's how we all got to know each other with your screen names, because back then you didn't give your personal information to strangers. Mine was as close as you get. I was Disney Ann, and you know that was probably a little risque back then just to have the name Ann in there. But anyway, but
Well, I
yeah,
think
no,
the identity theft thing didn't really occur as much back then because it was so new. We're talking the
right.
late 1990s, early 2000s. Is that sound right? Or
Early
was it just early
2000s.
2000s?
Yeah, I think it was like around 2001, maybe
Yeah.
2002. Does that sound right to you guys?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
because I made it to the boards because we were going to do our first Disney trip in 2003. So I started looking for information because I'd never been to Disney except one other time in 1976
Uh-huh.
and didn't have a great experience, but I'd heard so many people talking about Disney that I wanted my girls to experience it. And so Yeah. And the boards are what made our vacation so incredible, because there was so much to learn and understand about Disney.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the reason and you said just a minute ago, that's where you got started. We all started going there because we were wanting to go on a trip or planning a trip or didn't know how to start a trip or whatever. So we initially would go there to be, hey, how much does a ticket cost or whatever? Because I mean, again, early 2000s, even if a place like Disney had a website, it was very clunky. The 2002 websites were not very dynamic.
Yeah.
So a lot of that information, was easier to find it from someone that had that information in their head. And you went to a discussion board and said, hey, how much, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And like Ann said, 30 seconds would go by and someone would have responded to you, and that's how it started. And then
I don't think some people may not understand. You didn't have the information out there, even on the web, at your fingertips.
Right.
And
absolutely.
You guys remember, Disney would, even if you called and said, hey, I want to plan a trip, they'd send you a whole DVD and a packet. And there was a Walt Disney World guide.
Yes.
Or a guide to Walt Disney World, and they print it every year with all this major information. And you kind of had to make, if I remember right, that book was not super cheap. And by going on the discussion board, you really were able to get most of the information that would have been found in that book.
And really, think about it.
I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead, please.
No, I mean, you know what? There was things though that also, let's face it, that Disney probably really didn't want us sharing. Like, hey, go to Pedro, pick us bills and get a double cheeseburger and ask for an extra bun and make 2 burgers out of it. There were budget tips. Do y'all remember we used to do the photo challenges?
Yes.
The
dares.
That's in my notes. Yeah, I was going to talk about that. Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump on that one. But,
yeah, spoiler alert. No, that was some of the most fun stuff we had.
But there was so much there. It was that we created. I think there's a lot of content that we created amongst ourselves that Disney would have never created. So,
well, and what we created, or what was created because of all of us, was that sense of community. And I think, so we all started there at Disney Central, but Disney Central, I know when I got there, it was already really big. And it was, I couldn't even begin to tell you how many people were there, if it was 100 or if it was 5,000, I don't know. But it seemed like it was a lot. It seemed like there was a lot of people there, which was great when we were looking for that information. But then as the friendships and stuff started to develop, it seemed like the emphasis of what I guess the core group of us was looking for was less about the information and more about the friendships, right? Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, that it was about, at Disney Central, it was harder to cultivate those relationships because, it was pretty much an information seeking discussion board. And once we'd got the information and stuff, then we had already developed those friendships. So we wanted some place to go where it was a little more personal. And that's where you came in, right?
I did. I luckily had a sister who was very knowledgeable at that time on how to create a board and how to, do all these little magical things. And I was like, a couple people said, if you build it, we will come. So, so we did. So we built it and we came, and it was great. I mean, there was a core group of us and there were friendships there, and it wasn't just Disney anymore, even though it was called Mouse House Magic. It was all of us sharing things about our own families. I mean, we had gotten to the point. Yeah, we had gotten to that point where we all had a lot of us had met in person, maybe not all of us at that time, but we all met probably at some point or another, whether it was at Disney or whether, hey, you don't live that far from me, or I'm going to New York and I'm going to come meet you or what have you. So Mouse House Magic became more of a friend group, really, until I ruined it.
Until you ruined it. Well, before you talk about that, I will have
Yeah.
to say that one of my favorite memories of going to Disney World has to be the time that we went for the meetup, for the Mouse House Magic meetup, and that was in December of 2004, was it?
4. Yep.
2004.
Yeah.
And I was involved in a lot of things with my own family that week. It just so I wasn't going to go, but it wound up that my wife's family was going to go on a cruise. And so I went down to take them to the port, and I was able to meet up with you guys. And today's kids would have no idea of what this was like when we had no phones and no real way of getting in touch with each other. So we'd be not really texting, but writing on the board, or I don't even remember, but somehow we orchestrated so we could all be at the same place at the same time.
We had a little schedule.
Yeah.
Like we filled out like when we planned this thing, like we scheduled meals and we scheduled,
Yes.
okay, if everybody wants to go ride at this time, this is when we'll be there. And then you're right. I mean, man, do we have it easy now, with
Do you remember how
phones
many
and
people
things
were
like
there
that.
at that night?
Oh my gosh. So that second one that we had, I want to say that there was a total of 36 people that showed up off and on. Now, everybody wasn't together
Right.
the whole time. Kind of like, I think you joined us at Magic Kingdom for a ride, right?
On Sunday, yes.
I remember there being snow coming down and
No,
all
yeah,
that kind of good stuff. It was
the Christmas party.
right. And I think maybe Laura Burke was with me at that time,
Yes.
and a couple of
That's
my
the
kids.
day she had a very special
Yeah.
event happen.
Yes, she did. Yeah. I mean, but okay, there's another good example. We were a part of that. Like, she got engaged at Cinderella's wishing well. And I mean, like my daughter was in her wedding. I mean, that's how I don't think people understand or will probably ever understand what it was, because we really were all involved with each other's lives very deeply. And to this day, whether I've talked to a person, last week or, 10 years ago, I've got very fond memories of that entire group of people. I'm still friends with a lot of them on Facebook and things like that. Is it the same? No, because social media has gotten so huge, you guys. I mean, um, in a sense, it's almost kind of like we were pioneers in that into that whole realm. But I do think that Facebook kind of ended up being the downfall of a lot of those message boards.
Well, I know that. So we've talked about it before. Tony and I have never met in person.
Not
You
yet.
have not?
Not yet. We have never met in person yet.
I didn't
Ron
know
and
that.
I, no, I know we've been doing the show together for 2 years. We've known
Wow.
each other 20, but we've never met in person.
Oh my gosh.
I've met Ron a few times. We were at Disney World during at the same time, and our families hung out for a couple of days. And then we've gone to NASCAR races together, Ron. And then Anne, I met you in person. Do you mind if I don't want to reveal any secrets or anything, but
No. Go ahead. That's fine.
About like your husband's profession. Is that okay if I talk about
Yeah,
that?
that's fine. Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
So I'm from Arkansas, so I'm a huge Razorback fan. And Anne lives in South Carolina, and her husband worked for the university. So she invited us to come down and go to South Carolina Gamecocks versus an Arkansas Razorbacks football game. And I mean, and that's because we met on a Disney World chat room, or discussion board a few years before that, and that's what it was different than I guess my old man perspective of social media now is that, you don't make friends like that on Facebook or Instagram. You wouldn't have invited me to a football game if you'd have liked one of my pictures on Instagram. It's just, it's different.
That sounds seedy.
Yeah,
but
I know.
But to the credit, I mean, I'll never forget when we were planning to go to Disney and it just happened that it ended up on the same weekend that we were doing that. I can't remember what we called it, but where everybody was going to be there together. And Melissa's like, "You want to do what now? You want to meet these? Are you crazy?"
There were a few
And
classes like that.
I mean, back then you just didn't do that,
Right.
So,
No.
Or you just don't do that now either.
and you don't do that now. And you
You're
definitely
right.
don't fly to Pittsburgh for some stranger to come and get you so you can go watch a
race.
NASCAR race together. But we did. I mean, we just got to know each other enough that we felt comfortable doing that. So,
Ann,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you mentioned the picture challenges a second ago, and you want to talk about that and what I cut you off because we were going to get to that, but let's talk about that for a minute, because again, to illustrate how we weren't there for the information anymore, we were there for the friendships, and it really started getting silly and all of this other kind of stuff. So let's talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so I'm one of those people that's always looking for new ways of doing things. I just look for new activities, and I guess that's why now I'm working in schools. It's because it's a good place for me to channel that. But anyway, so on the other website, I was like, oh my gosh, some people were posting pictures of their trips and things like that, and it was like, look, here's the talking trash can at Epcot. Oh, okay. Well, I've always seen that, but I never paid attention to it. Well, then it became, you know what? It was a way of almost living vicariously through each other when they were going on their trips, right? So you kind of were like, okay, hey, so Dewey loves It's a Small World. It's his favorite ride. Oh, yeah, I remember that correctly, right?
Oh yeah, you're close.
Anyway, so I don't know that was the first challenge. Man, I would like to go back and see what the first challenge was. But anyway, so it was just kind of fun. Is a way to kind of poke somebody that was getting to go to Disney when you didn't get to go, and you're like going, okay, well, I challenge you to take a picture in front of It's a Small World. And for some reason, I feel like, Ron, was yours Ohio State?
yeah, I'm definitely a State fan. I can't remember what.
I think Dewey had to hold a picture. Dewey, we picked on you a lot.
Yes.
That's because these guys were always fighting. I mean, when we moved on to your board, they constantly went at each other in writing.
Yeah.
But we don't do that anymore.
No, not at all.
Ron and I are doing each other anymore.
Oh gosh. But anyway, so I mean, it became kind of a fun way to include your Disney Central Mouse House Magic friends, was to kind of say, you know what, I'm going to do this because, hey, I'm still thinking about you guys. Look, you know what, I did this. I don't think you won anything. You didn't get any accolades or anything.
It was just bragging rights.
It was kicks and giggles, really, But man, did we have some fun ones. I'm trying to remember. Do y'all remember?
We had one where I had to eat a Mickey bar just somewhere in front of somewhere. Yep. And then there was some type of, I think it may have started with some dance or something that you had to jump on one leg, or I forget who started it, but it was something like that. And then they just kept getting a little crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
Look, I'll tell you this is how crazy it was. I was sent to Germany for 4 months for the Air Force in 2005. And Ron mailed me a stupid freaking Ohio State shirt in Germany, and then dared me to wear it because I was going to Disneyland Paris while I was there.
My gosh, that's great.
And I would be caught dead in an Ohio State University shirt, but I also wouldn't be caught dead getting punked at a challenge either. So I certainly took that stupid, horrible shirt and took it into Disneyland Paris and changed into it and took a picture in that ugly thing. So that's how ridiculous the the challenges or the dares got.
Yeah.
I
They
want
were
to see
great.
that picture.
Yeah, I still have it, and I'm holding it because it had a logo here, and I'm like making a face or something.
And can I ask
Ew.
you, can we take this to rewind a bit to Anne's interest? How did you get interested in Disney? What was your interest in going to the parks? Was it someplace that you went to a lot when you were growing up, or was it something you started to go to with your family, or what made you that interested?
Well, okay, so I've got a picture of my family at Disney in 1970. Wait a minute, let me think. Three, two. It had barely opened. My mom was just determined that we were going to go to Disney World, and I remember walking around the park, and they still had the construction stuff up.
Wow.
Like it wasn't even finished yet. Like I remember crying because Peter Pan wasn't open, but of course they had the little construction thing painted with the Peter Pan coming soon. And I remember just being so disappointed that I couldn't ride that. I mean, it was very early. I wish I could find that picture. But anyway, um, but I mean they had the swans. Have y'all seen the pictures of the swans going
Fun
down through?
boats.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
I remember those. Man, that really makes me old, right? Um,
No.
We're all about the
um,
same age.
Yeah.
well, so that was the first time that we went, and then we didn't go back again until like in the early 1980s. Our parents surprised us with a trip, and it was everything that I remembered and more. Um, my husband and I ended up honeymooning there. That was my third trip. And then when my oldest son, who's now 30, yeah, I said 30, um,
Wow.
he was 5 years old, and we went down there for my husband's convention, and we had a blast. And let me tell you something, we were living in South Carolina at that point, and I just looked at him, I said, it's worth the 6 hour drive. We've been every year since then. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, you know what? I mean, it sounds cliche to say it's my happy place, but it really is my happy place. Like, I forget whatever else is going on in the world that, politically or socially that I don't necessarily, agree with or want to think about. You don't get that when you're at Disney. None of that matters. And I think everybody's brain needs that break every now and then just to be, drowned in magic. And it still does that to this day. It still gives me that. So yeah, that's how I got interested.
You have a favorite
And
park that you go to?
If I tell you, I'll probably have like tomatoes thrown at me or something, but because my family does not agree. I love Animal Kingdom.
Okay.
I love Animal Kingdom. I love the unique environment. Um, it's not everybody goes, it's a zoo. No, it's really not a zoo. It's just one of those places that makes me, I don't know, makes me feel good. I like the African music that's playing through all the parks, and of course now Avatar is so much fun. Um, I'm curious, what would be what is any of your favorites?
In terms of
uh,
attractions, or
The park. What park is your favorite?
we kind
mine's
of,
Epcot for
yeah, and I
sure.
think Ron's Magic Kingdom, and I think I'm Hollywood Studios. It's kind of funny. We have
Mine's
all
Magic
four
Kingdom.
represented here.
Okay, so I round you out.
That's right.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, and you know what? And I love them all. Y'all are going to die when you hear this. This is the first year I've been an annual pass holder. I did it in July. I was like, you know what?
Cool.
Um, my second son lives in Jacksonville, which is a very nice, about a 4 hour drive from here. And I just looked at my husband. I said, you know what? I'm doing the annual pass. I can drive down and hang out at his place, and then it's only an hour and a half, 2 hours away to the parks, and I'll just, I'll just go whenever the heck I feel like it now.
That's
Um,
great.
That's awesome.
yeah, I'm very proud of it.
When you mentioned your family, you just reminded me of another thing that kids today probably don't do, is that we actually all kept in contact through mail. I mean, every year that we'd have the Christmas cards. We'd see the kids growing up, and we'd also have we'd have an ornament thing where we'd all like exchange ornaments, and I think some of that still goes on every now and then. But it was such a special thing at the time because we're essentially sending this out to strangers, pen pals.
Yeah. Socks. We did a sock exchange. And
I
it's
didn't
all
know
those
about the
things,
sock exchange.
y'all. It's all those things that on Facebook, somebody will post, hey, you get buy one person a gift and you get 35 back, and they're illegal now.
I
Doing
think
it
that's
way
called a
back in the
Ponzi
day.
scheme.
Yeah, we were doing that way back in the day. Actually, no, you know what? It was more of a Secret Santa exchange kind of thing. But
Yes.
man, was that fun to get mail that you're like going, somebody picked something out just for you. I mean, and it's, they were Disney ornaments and then the sock exchange. And I remember a very special gift that I got from the Mouse House Magic Men one year. You guys sent me, I don't know if y'all remember this or not, but y'all sent me a tin of nuts and little Christmassy, treats and things like that. And yeah, I mean, y'all, we were so generous with each other, but you know what? It's like you had an online family almost,
Yeah.
Yes.
And when somebody, I don't know if y'all remember this too, but I love WDW Kim. When she lost a family member, I mean, we all jumped in and were, extending support to her and things like that. And we actually have lost one member that I know of,
Yeah.
Neen 626. And, I mean, and then Amy ended up sending out ornaments that I put on my Christmas tree every year in honor of Nina. So
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
it was such a unique thing. It really was. And I do not take it for granted. Do I stay in touch with everybody every day? No. But I mean, I highly value everything about those relationships and that era, and I don't think I've ever had anything else like that since.
Absolutely not. And and you're right, it's different, and we don't talk as much as we used to or as we did back then. But I'm probably Facebook friends with, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 20. I don't know the number, but 15 or so of the old MHM crew that they're posting pictures of the kids going away to college and all that stuff, and I'm still seeing, and we're still now, instead of putting a post on MHM about it, I'm just liking their picture or whatever, so it's different, but it's we still have those relationships. And then
Absolutely.
really the whole reason why we wanted to bring you on here, Ann, today is because to celebrate our show, because without you taking that fork in the road or whatever, if you will, from Disney Central and starting MHM, then I wouldn't be involved with these two knuckleheads doing this show a couple of times a month. And and that has been extremely fun and rewarding for the three of us. So in all honesty, we wanted to thank you for being on the show, of course, but mostly for giving us that space so that we could go and type out ridiculous things and to take stupid pictures and to just develop those friendships, and all the friendships that we've been talking about for the last hour or so. That it was a really fun place, and we couldn't have done it without you.
Well, I you know what, is the people that made it work. I gave the tools and you know what, it's every single member that made all that work. And like
mostly me, but
yeah,
the others
yeah,
were fun too.
yeah.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
Ron and Tony, I'm
And
really
he's
sorry.
humble
Okay.
too. He's humble
I'm
too.
sorry, guys. I mean,
It's because of you I have to put up with that.
Yes, it's your fault.
wow. Okay, I need to go sit in the corner. Oh my
All right.
gosh.
Final thoughts, Ron, Tony, any final thoughts?
Just thank you for everything that Dewey said. Thank you for being here, and thank you for starting that, and thank you for your friendship over the years.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Same. Just thank you. And And it's great to think back to that and know that we are still friends with so many of those people. Just not as, it's not like it was, but we have that time to remember. And this podcast is a result of that, and some great friendships. So
Absolutely. Thank you guys. Y'all just, when I said I would do this, I kind of was, I don't know. Yeah, okay, I'll do it, but you guys really reminded me, brought it all kind of rushing back to me, how special that was. And, there'll never be anything else like that. There just won't
No.
be. So I'm appreciative to you guys too.
Awesome. Well, but mostly me, right? Mostly me.
yeah.
Yes, of course, Dewey.
All right.
Yeah.
So
I was trying to save Ron and Tony from being humiliated.
yeah, that was very delicate. I get it. I understand. Well, Ann, thanks for being here. Thanks for coming on the show, taking time out of your schedule and doing that for us. And thanks for MHM and all the friendships and stuff that we built because of your little discussion board.
Well, thank you. Y'all guys have a great night.
You too.
You too. Thank you.